What is going on? How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's having a good day so far. Hope everybody's had a good week so far. We're still pretty early in the week, but we're here to talk some football, some Indiana football, because Indiana, they're a game away from a national championship, and they're the current favorites to win the national championship. Now, if you told an Indiana fan 2 years ago that you would be that in 2026 you would be playing for a spot in the national championship, you would be favored to win the national championship, and you would have a Heisman favorite or a Heisman winner at quarterback, I think you'd say I'm crazy. But that's the reality. That is the reality now. Indiana is one of the top, hottest spots in the entire transfer portal. So we're going to talk about some Indiana transfer portal stuff because they just went out and got their quarterback, and he's, in my opinion, one of the more underrated quarterbacks, one in the transfer portal and two in the entire country. And I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Fernando Mendoza, but I think you found your next Fernando Mendoza replacement that is going to live up to expectation, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking, and we'll get into that in just a second. Before we do, let me know in the comments what you think of this move if you already know about it. And first off, I do want to appreciate all the Indiana fans. Now, I posted a few Indiana videos a few weeks back, and you guys showed me a tremendous amount of support, so I greatly appreciate all the Indiana fans. It's been awesome getting to talk about this team. It's been awesome getting to watch this team go from really nothing to a powerhouse. And it would be really cool if you could really see Indiana keep it up. And I think as long as you have Curt Cignetti there, he's going to do so. I think Curt Cignetti is really paving the way to be one of the better head coaches in the entire country. He might already be, to be honest. I don't think anybody else is going to walk into a program like Indiana and turn it around in year two and be favored to win a national championship. I think that is crazy work. Now, enough of the rambling. We're going to get to the quarterbacks. Not going to hold you here for too long, a little shorter of a video, but just kind of give my thoughts and opinions on it. So your quarterback is Josh Hoover. You went out and you got Josh Hoover in the transfer portal. This kid at TCU, or sorry, I have a habit of saying kid, probably older than me, but anyway, this guy, I was highly impressed with him since he first started at TCU. I really thought he was a good quarterback from the get go. Like, I think he was surrounded by, not so great talent over and not so great. I wouldn't say coaching. I'd say talent. You kind of like that talent at TCU. And I'm not saying TCU doesn't have talent, because TCU obviously does have talent. But I think when you go over to Indiana and you are playing around players developed by Curt Cignetti, which Curt Cignetti is one of the best in the country at developing players, I think you're going to elevate your game to a completely new level. And Josh Hoover, when I watched him at TCU, because I watched a lot of Josh Hoover at TCU, I think he has all the potential. I think his ceiling is very high, and he just hasn't hit that ceiling yet because he hasn't had the right quarterback development. Now, you go to Indiana, you've had Curtis Rourke. He was pretty good, but he wasn't elite. You got Fernando Mendoza. He's elite. You can't argue that Fernando Mendoza is elite. He won the Heisman Trophy for a reason. He's probably gonna be the number one overall pick for a reason. He's taken his team to maybe a national championship for a reason. Now, I think you put Josh Hoover in an offense like Fernando Mendoza has been playing in, I think you seriously have a guy right there. You seriously have one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the entire country. Now, if we're talking about Josh Hoover this past year, if Josh Hoover declared for the draft, I think that he would have been a late draft riser. I think that towards the combine and stuff, he would have been getting some first round draft buzz, because you always see that late quarterback riser just randomly. Like last year it was Tyler Shuck, and Jackson Dart was also one. Josh Hoover would have been that guy this year. I'm pretty confident Josh Hoover would have been that late draft riser, because I think a lot of teams, NFL teams were already sending scouts to watch him. So that's saying something. They see something in him. I think a lot of people who do watch him see something in him. TCU fans might say otherwise, because I do know that things maybe didn't end the smoothest. But from watching him, in my opinion, I think Josh Hoover has a pretty high ceiling. Now we'll jump into some of his stats because they're pretty similar to another player that I'm going to talk about in just a minute, and we'll compare them just for the fun. I'm not like that big of a numbers guy, but just for the fun. Now Josh Hoover this year, 3,000 yards through the air, or 3,400 yards through the air, 29 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Now, yes, there were some turnover issues, but Josh Hoover throws the ball deep. This guy has a amazing deep ball, in my opinion. I think he has a really good deep ball, and that's going to fit really well at Indiana as well. I did want to mention that because I've noticed that really from the get go. Like, he has a really good deep ball in that TCU system. He kind of fit there. And I think he's going to translate perfectly to Indiana because you're not going to have to throw the ball 50 times like you see against Iowa State. You know, you're not going to have to go into Indiana and throw the ball 50 times because you have a pretty good run game to rely on, which Indiana just went out and got a stud running back, which we're going to talk about in a separate video because I do have a video coming of pretty much every transfer portal addition that Indiana has made. So stay tuned for that one. But anyways, yeah, man, Josh Hoover, if you look at his stats and then you look at Fernando Mendoza's stats, pretty similar. Pretty similar. Yes, Fernando protects the ball a little bit better, as you can see. And his QBR is probably, I think it's the highest in the country. Let me check. Second highest in the country. I'd like to see who's first. I honestly forgot. But anyways, yeah, there are a little bit of turnover issues for Josh Hoover, but I think that's something that can be fixed in a better offense where you're not throwing the ball 50 times a game, which when you're throwing the ball 50 times a game, obviously there will be more turnovers. Now, Indiana, like I said, you're going to have a better run game. You're going to have better receivers to throw to as well. So I think you'll see those interception numbers go down. I think you'll see these touchdown numbers right here go up. I think you got a similar player, not stylistically, and I'm not saying Josh Hoover is going to go win a Heisman Trophy, although I think he honestly could at Indiana, the way that we've seen them develop Fernando Mendoza. I think that, like I said, he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the country, and I fully believe that Josh Hoover could potentially be a first-round pick next year, potentially top 10, maybe. I don't think that's too crazy to say. Now, like I said, look at Fernando's numbers. I think you'll see those touchdown numbers go up for Hoover as well. That's just something to monitor. Now, I do want to talk about this one. You went out and you got a stud wide receiver in Nick Marsh. So Nick Marsh from Michigan State. This is a guy who I think a lot of Michigan State fans would say he hasn't quite lived up to what they were hoping for. But look at his quarterback play these past few years. Look at his quarterback play. He's never had quarterback play. When he transfers to Indiana, which already happened, he's already committed with Indiana, and you have Josh Hoover as your quarterback, Josh Hoover is immediately the best quarterback that Nick Marsh has ever played with. Now, Nick Marsh put up like 700 yards last year, I believe. I think with Josh Hoover, he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. And Indiana, we've seen high-level production out of their receivers this year. I think that Nick Marsh has probably a higher ceiling than a lot of those guys, and Indiana has some great receivers right now. I'm just making projections. Don't mean this in a bad way whatsoever. I just think Nick Marsh's ceiling is very high. Very high. I think he was a 5-star coming out. If he wasn't a 5-star, he was so he was a 4-star, but I remember him being a borderline 5-star. Like, he could have gotten that 5th star. So you get a guy like this into Indiana. He's immediately playing in the best offense he's ever played in. So you're going to see that production go up as well. You had 700 yards with a terrible quarterback. Now you give him, first off, Curt Cignetti, who's really good at bringing in the staff that helps you develop all these players. Like we've seen in Indiana. That's the reason that Indiana is where they are right now. It's a huge reason. And a better quarterback. Nick Marsh is going to be a stud. And if I'm an Indiana fan, I am absolutely stoked to see this offense next year. But I just wanted to talk about those real quick. Like I said, I'm going to be doing another video here probably next week of everybody that Indiana has picked up in the transfer portal because they are going pretty insane right now. Like,